Good morning, folks, and welcome to episode 18 of the Healing Hut. I have another treasure I want to show you. These are cut cornerstones, and it is a sandstone that matches what I already have. And it's hard to describe how unique this is, but cornerstones, because they have to be hand cut, are expensive. When I bought them before for another project from the store, and they're about $7 a rock. And you can imagine how many rocks are in here. I think over 200. And I found them on Facebook. A construction project was getting rid of them, but not only finding them. A used product, it's not used, they're brand new, I mean, they've never been used, was that even in the stores, I thought I was going to have to buy these. Even in the stores, you cannot find, I've never heard of sandstone cornerstones. So those go on the corner of the building, and then the other stones go on the face of the building. And you know, some people they ask me this quite often, especially they just joined this YouTube channel, is, I thought you were building a stone house. Well, I'm going to tell a little bit of that story, is that, of course, I wanted to build a stone cottage. That was my dream, as I originally had a dream of doing this in Europe, and that dream had to be put away once I was diagnosed with cancer. That would have been impossible, especially when I was so sick. And I had actually designed a traditional Scottish stone cottage that was actually made of stone, fully stone, from the foundation all the way up. I realize that we live in a very seismic area. We've had over the centuries, we've had level 8 on the Richter scale higher earthquakes here. Plus, on a clear day, you can see 2 active volcanoes from here, one not that far away. So I knew it was going to be a challenge to get permits for a solid stone building. So I did this design. I even had these little channels of concrete and rebar every so often inside the walls and all this. But I started talking to architects, and they said, there is no way I will get approval for that. And my architect agreed, said there's no reason to even apply. They will not give a permit for a solid stone building. For the seismic problem, as well as for energy, you know, you cannot insulate a stone wall building. Go back to Middle Ages. This is a miserable time. They had these fireplaces that they burned all the time just to try to keep the chill out of the air. But the heat would go right through the stone. So anyway, you didn't have many options except to build a traditional frame building, which I have, and then putting stone facade on the outside. The stone facade, what will go on next is a rubber mat. On the outside will be a rubber mat that drains water from behind the stones, because my St. Bernard is upset about something. Oh, she hears something in the woods. Greta, it's okay. It's okay. She hears another dog barking. Anyway, you have to put on a rubber mat to drain the water from behind the stones, then a metal lath that goes on, it's stapled on with heavy-duty staples, and then you put your stone on. But you have to do it that way in this area of the country. It will look just like a stone building. It will be a stone building, because I'm using authentic stones that I will put on the side of the building. But the problem came back to not having cornerstones. You can't run flat stones to the corner and it looked okay. It always looked weird. So I knew I was going to have to either figure a way to cut stones myself or purchase them. And I'd already started looking at the marketplace for that, the retail marketplace. And then I found these down in Seattle. And I drove down there yesterday. the chemo I'm on, if you've been on chemo, not all chemos are the same, leaves me completely exhausted. And I've told a friend, we're about 100 miles from downtown Seattle, and for me to drive Seattle one way or there and back is exhausting. It's just hard to express how exhausting it is. But I went down, a friend went with me, and loaded these up. It took probably an hour and a half to load these up by hand, and then to drive back. And last night I was completely pooped. So today I'm gonna start unloading these. I gotta clear out a place to put them, and that's exciting. Now next summer, or not next summer, this summer, where summer is here in like 2 weeks. The project I have going on now, and you'll see on this video, I'm gonna be, once I get my stones unloaded, I'm gonna be marking locations on the ground for a pit I have to dig at the bottom of the telephone pole, and a trench all the way to the wall. Now the problem of trenching across this driveway, this is not just stones. My foundation guy that I hired, he did this driveway, and he did it, if you ever look at the way Roman roads are built, we start with big boulders. These were like 8 inches in diameter rocks that we put down, and then I think we put down after that a plant barrier, which is not working because plants are coming up, and then a smaller stone in this fine stone. So I have to dig that all up to get to the wall to run the underground power line, and also have to dig a trench from the meter, which will, ugly meter. I didn't want to put it on the front, but the code requires me to put it on the front. It has to be in the front 1/3 of your building, and you can't put it under a porch. That ruled out here. And then once I get to this wall down here, now I'm beyond halfway. It has to be in the 3rd front of your building, so I have no choice but put this ugly meter right here in the front of the building, and I regret that. But I have to dig a trench from there all the way around the cottage back to where my circuit breaker box is inside the wall on the far end. Now the challenge here is this pipe goes to a underground rainwater catchment system where the gutters will hook into, and I can't run a power line in the same trench as a rainwater collection system per code. So I'm going to have to dig a separate trench away from the house, which means once I get back to here, I'm going to have to somehow slope it up and then back against the house. So it's going to be challenging. And probably Saturday I'll go buy probably $600 or $700 in wire that I'll have to use to run the power around the cottage. And then next week I'll do the excavations of this ditch. I'll have to rent an excavator, and the one up to that telephone pole. I just hope there's not any giant boulders in the ground. We have tons of, you can see down at where we park cars, that's from our property. We have tons of boulders that glaciers have left here about, well, it's probably about 14,000, no, longer than that, about 20,000 years ago. And they just littered this area with boulders. So that's on the agenda. I'll keep you updated as time goes on. But today I'm going to focus on getting this truck unloaded and see what energy I have left to do that. I'm so glad you're here. You know, I'm going to try to pick some topic to talk about, and I'll talk about this later on in the episode. But one of the big questions, and I talk about it on a philosophical level, but you know, it applies to everyone, is why bad things happen to good people. There's a book by a rabbi with that title, why bad things happen to good people, or just why do bad things happen? In a sense of providence or fatalism, determinism. There's a very popular saying that all things happen together for good. It's a in some parts of Christianity, it's a doctrine that people believe. But even I've heard Hindus and Buddhists use the term that all things happen together for good, and if it's not good, then it's not done. Or in the end, all things will be good, and if it's not good, then it's not done. But I want to challenge that, because this kind of thinking sort of paints you into a corner, especially for some Christians who think that all things that happen have to be from the hand of God. And then when something bad happens, it leaves them in a real dilemma. But anyway, I'll talk about that later on. But you guys, thanks again for coming. Well, here we go. Here's the next phase of our project. I had to rent a excavator to dig my line out for the power company. And I've rented this machine probably at least once or twice before. But my excavator experience is limited. And every time I rent a machine, I spend the first few hours trying to relearn how to drive it and how to use it and get the balance. But I have a fear that I'm going to run into trouble. Everything I do, it becomes more complicated. Like there could be a massive boulder underneath the ground right where the telephone pole is. That'd be a mess. I don't know what I'd do with that. And then when I get to this driveway, I don't know how I'm going to clean it up, because I know I helped build the driveway and it's down about 2 feet of rocks, big boulders. Not boulders, but like 8-inch diameter rocks. So I'm gonna set this thing on time lapse in a minute. Well, I'm down to the final on this, and I'm going to show you, this has been nerve-wracking. I have to get this close to the wall with this big shovel, and then there's this pipe that goes underneath. I don't want to go too deep or hit that. So I'm playing with inches, or even a half of an inch. Now, I have a great respect for people who do excavating for a living. I always thought that looked like such an easy job. But I spent 4 hours this morning digging out this, and also across the road there's a French drain that when we put in the driveway to the cottage, the guy running the dozer then hooked my French drain and tore it out of the ground. So I have to put in French drains again for our driveway. Well, what a day. It's all finished. It looks like a bomb has gone off here. Tomorrow I have a newspaper coming out to interview me and take pictures. And so wish I could have left this to after that. But anyway, it's done. Now, the things that kept me awake, the hard things actually came true. They were just as hard as I feared they would be. But the good news is there was not any big surprises. Like if I had hit a water line, I do not think there's a water line anywhere near here, but my guy who did the foundation hit a water line and is a mess. If I hit a water line, if I'd broken my plastic gutter drains, that'd been a disaster. If I hit a post, hit the side of the building. Oh, the big thing I worried about was we have a lot of they're called erratics, big boulders that glaciers had left, and some of them are about the size of Volkswagens or even bigger. And if you dig down and hit one of those, it's a nightmare because you can't pull it out of the ground. Maybe you can dynamite it, but that would have been a big deal. I'm gonna go up here and calm down my goats a little bit, who I've scared all day long with my machine. Hey, Clarence. This is a Friday. I'm hoping to finish this next week sometime. First of all, I don't know if I've showed you, but my electrical box is completely done. I got to run my service line in. I'll probably do that next week. You'll see that on video, I hope. I got the panel all labeled. That's part of code. And I've been working on this for a good not 4 months, 3 months. I have one more little outlet I gotta put some wire nuts on, and then all the wiring is done, 100% done. I've been moving sand this morning. You can see this trench. By code, you have to put 3 inches of sand in the ditch. This ditch is cleaned out till you see all that rubble, and I got to clean that out by hand, and then put sand up to the pole and cut that out a little bit better with a shovel and put sand in it. And then you'll see me, I've got all my conduit. You'll see me, I hope, next week. I have to go in the hospital for chemo on Monday, but Tuesday or Wednesday up. You'll see me putting together my conduit to come around the corner. My box is not here yet. I hope it's here early next week. That would help. And then run the power line into the cottage itself. I'll show you my power line. I think I've showed you before, but it's this big aluminum service line. It's hard, really hard to bend and to work with. So I got to make a U-turn up the wall and come in that hole up there. And that's going to be tricky. This shoveling has been a lot of physical work. Like I said, I don't have the stamina I used to have. I've spent the whole morning shoveling sand here. And let me stop here and tell you a brief little story. My wife finished, she's a college professor. She ended her quarter on Wednesday. So we decided to take a trip up the mountains. We took a Jeep trail over the mountains, over Mountain Pass. But anyway, make a long story short, hi chicken. I come home with a truckload of more rocks. So I never get the cottage out of my mind. Even when I'm saying I'm taking a day off, I still find things to bring home. So I got getting more and more rocks. My sand was here when I got home on Wednesday from our trip over the mountains. And my French drain line is pretty much done. I could put a little bit more fill in here, but it's pretty much done. So that's the way it's going. There will not be plumbing on this episode. I tell you, this electrical has taken so much time. It's just unbelievable. And it's just, hard work. Digging ditches and moving dirt and moving rocks and drilling holes in beams and running wire. Just a lot more work than I expected. And I'm trying to pace myself. Like I said, I took Wednesday off, but this morning I worked hard physically, so I'm going to take the rest of the afternoon off from cottage work. I got to mend a sail for my little sailboat, which I don't take out very much because I'm always working on the cottage. But that's how I'm going to spend my afternoon, give my body some rest. I have to say, as bad as yesterday was, today was good. You need good days to counterbalance the bad days. But yesterday, I had planned on 30 minutes to hook up my line to the breaker box. Get a little bit better view here. And, I've already said it took me over 6 hours, including about 30 minutes this morning to finish it. But today, I wanted to run my line around the cottage. And I gave myself 2 hours, and I probably had it done in 30 minutes. And the timing could be perfect. I left this end open for a reason. Because what came today, I've been waiting on for a month, is my meter box. I'll put that up tomorrow and plug my line in, get that all set. And then the rain also came, which told me the timing was perfect. So anyway, that's the way it goes. I'm gonna go up here and say hi to my goat friends who don't like the rain so much. I'm at the end of this episode, and no, I did not get the plumbing. I hope to get the plumbing. Well, I'm sure I'll get the plumbing next month. I still need to set up this line for the power company, and I need to get an inspector to look at my electrical work. They could come back and say I've done something terribly wrong. I hope not. I'm gonna have the electrician friend come over in a week or so to look over things, see if I made any glaring mistakes that I can fix before I call the inspectors. I was talking about one of the issues this time was about, I guess I use the term fatalism, but the idea that's very popular, and it's popular among religious folks and non-religious folks, that everything happens for a reason. And as I said, I know Hindu friends who say that everything ends in good, and if it's not good, it hasn't ended. But I want to, hi guys, you don't like the rain, do you? I'm gonna come here and join you for just a minute, say hi. Here's some treats. Yep, it's Cheerios, you like Cheerios. And here comes Mama. You like Cheerios, I know, Mama. There you go. Boy, you're hungry, Bee. Aren't you? You should get some treats too. I know your family picks on you, but you deserve treats. Go ahead. There you go. He's always afraid to eat. That his brother's gonna come knock him down. Clarence, Mr. Bossy. So, I think I mentioned, well, anyway, when I first was diagnosed with cancer and things were very grave then, there is an automatic assumption by some people, anytime I said the word cancer, that I was mad at God. And I will tell you clearly, the idea of being mad at God has never crossed my mind in 5 years. And it's not because I had my crap together. It's because I went through a devastating loss in 1990 that took me years to work through. And at that time, I don't know if I was mad at God. I was just confused when you try to do good and something bad happens. And a lot of people face this. And the reason is we live in a broken universe. An atheist would say it's because, it hasn't evolved to perfection, nor would it ever. The Christian would say it's that this is not the universe that God has created. And the Hindus, hey, who's biting me back there? Hindu and Buddhists, I think, would say that this world's an illusion anyway. But Christians, I know that area best, and also I know Islam pretty well because I lived in a Muslim country and had a lot of good Muslim friends. Ow. Are you just wanting treats? You can have some treats, but don't bite my butt, Mr. Butt Biter. I'm gonna have to step outside. He's nibbling at my butt. That when tragedy strikes, this is both Christian and Muslim. When tragedy strikes, it could be because of your personal sin or evil, or it could be that God has done it for a reason, to teach you something, or to change the course of your life. And they always look to, what's God doing in this bad thing? And, cancer is one of those bad things. And, there's many other tragedies that happen to people. But when you have that view that all things have a reason, that they come to that conclusion trying to create or project a God so big that God has to have puppeteer type of control over everything you do and say in all the events of your life. And anything less than that, they see as a God who's inferior. But I don't sit that way at all now after 1990. In 1990, when I worked through some of these difficult things, I spent hours and hours reading I read a lot of philosophy and history and Bible and even look at the Quran and things like that, just trying to make sense out of the world. And it all came together when I saw a bumper sticker that says, "Shit happens." And that's the way it is, that shit happens in this world. And it's not by design. I really believe it's not by design. It has no purpose. It has no value. And people look, okay, what do I need to learn from this? What's the value? Now you can learn from it. I mean, the reason I'm building the cottage is to try to take lemons and make lemonade. You can, but God didn't give me cancer for a reason. There's just no reason. And the word that my Muslim friends, my Christian friends hate to hear, and hey, look at it. Why are you biting me? Why are you biting me? Okay, more treats. Maybe I'm rewarding him for biting me. Maybe it's it. The word that they hate to hear is the word chance. But we don't know what causes multiple myeloma. It's a mutation of one single gene that's supposed to take proteins and fold them in a way to help build our immune system, but instead it folds it in the opposite way and creates this cancer that will kill you in months without treatment. So I see the people who've gone through tragedies. Well, there's a story. I don't know if I told this group or not, about a church I attended where a father backed over his toddler in a lawnmower and killed him. I can't think of anything worse than that somebody could go through. But the thing that really troubled me is that in this evangelical church, an elder got up the next Sunday and said, "God did this for a reason. There's a reason behind everything. And God did this for a reason, and it's to teach us to trust Him." That if you were a rational person, say an alien that came to Earth that wasn't part of this culture, to hear a story like that, you would think, this is bullshit. And it's not saying that God is inferior. Matter of fact, the God I have now is much bigger than the God I had as evangelical. I see a universe that's billions of years old, not 6,000 years old. I see a universe that from end to end is 27 billion light years wide. There's trillions of galaxies, trillions of stars. And if there's a God that's big enough to have created all this, it's not that He's not interested in us as individuals. It's just a choice that He's made that I don't understand, but He does, and I trust that, is that in the day-to-day life, He allows cause and effect. So if you say, okay, I'm going to pour gasoline all over myself and then go sit, what, are you up to more mischief now? Now what are you doing? Sit by the campfire and roast marshmallows. And then and my Muslim friend would always say, well, he's not going to burn up unless it's God's will. And Christians do the same thing. I'm going to say, no, he is going to burn up because of laws of physics and doing something really, really stupid. Now, of course, not all tragedies are caused from someone doing something stupid. I mean, no one did something stupid to cause my cancer. But I do know people, even with multiple myeloma, who want to blame someone. I knew a lady that blamed her husband's boss that he exposed him to diesel fumes, and that's what caused his cancer. I think that's a dead-end street when you try to find blame for tragedies. I mean, even with the guy who backed over his toddler, it was so tragic. And from what I understand, he and his wife divorced because they blamed each other so much. You know, blamed him for not looking, blamed the wife for leaving the door unlatched, things like that. So the greatest theological thing I personally have ever stumbled upon, and you may totally disagree with everything I'm saying, that doesn't bother me. Most things I say people disagree with, is that that God allows things to happen, and it's chance. It's just chance. It's the acting out of physical laws in this cosmos. Now, I'm not saying that God could not interfere, but there's some reason He doesn't, and you just have to accept that it is what it is, and you can't fight against it, or you can't try to put meaning to something that is completely meaningless. Cancer is meaningless, as is, you know, backing over your son in a lawnmower, you know, in a car crash. Now, you could sometimes find people responsible. Drunk drivers are terrible. But, you know, the guy backing over his son in a lawnmower and killing him. I'd raised 5 children. It could have easily happened to me. I try to be very, very careful, not backing over in the car. But anyway, my point I'm trying to make is I think that's a really important lesson to learn. And most Christians would not agree with me. Most Muslims won't agree with me. Probably Hindus and Buddhists don't agree with me. They all see a reason. There is no reason. It just happens. Shit happens. And then just accept it and move on. Make the best of it. It is what it is. And you make the very best of it. And not sit around and pity. Or not sit around and... Are you picking on me again? You're a troublemaker there, Mr. Clarence. That hurts when you bite my skin. Let me see if I have more treats. I'm up down to the bottom. Okay, here I go rewarding you for biting me again. I'm not a very good pet owner. I have too much compassion for animals. Anyway, so that was my thoughts this time. Electrical inspector is saying it's too high off the ground, whatever. But anyway, I did not finish wiring my box up. That will just surely take me 30 minutes at the most. Just because I did not want to mess with anything. Because I pulled pipes apart once. I get down here. So here's my meter box that I got to wire up. This looks really messy right now. And there's my come along and holding these 2 pieces of pipe together until the glue dries. But anyway, it's done. It's done. Next time, in a month from now or more, we'll definitely, I don't know if I could just say definitely, be into plumbing. By then, I hope to have maybe have power on. By that time, we'll see. I just about 5 minutes ago got my monthly labs for my cancer, and I'm happy to say now for 25 months there's been no trace of cancer. Now that doesn't mean that I'm cured. There's no cure for multiple myeloma, but it's in a really good remission, which I never thought was possible a few years ago. So it's like winning the lottery every month when you open up your labs. You're a little bit nervous. Your finger hovers a button. You know, I don't do it right before we go to bed, because if it's bad, I'll stay up all night. But my finger hovers above the button. I hit it, and you start reading the numbers as they're coming up. And anyway, there's a very sensitive test for multiple myeloma called M-Spike, and there's no record, no trace of it. There's no trace of my bad proteins or anything like that. And I am grateful. I won the lottery again. Thanks so much for coming along. This is important to me. You know, I still spend most of my days alone. It'd be better now my wife is home for the summer. And just doing little videos, it's something for me to do. I'm going to be, there's a newspaper article coming out about this cottage. The interview's done. I'm just, you know, I can't promise that they're going to use it. And someone made a comment once, like, are you trying to make money? Or I can't remember what it was. Or trying to use cancer for your own benefit. No. Again, I'm trying to make lemons into lemonade, and making a video like this, the YouTube video, and even doing the interview for the newspapers. It's certainly not for self-interest. Anyway, thanks so much for coming along. I enjoy being with you, even though it's just virtually. You have a great week and month until I see you again.